Welcome to Red and Yellow, the podcast about all things to do with refereeing at grassroots level, looking at the laws of football, speaking to guests, and trying to help you become a better referee, with Adam Humphreys and me, Ed Connell.
Sorry, I should do a vocal warm-up before each podcast.
Good evening, Adam. How are you?
Good evening, Edward. I'm well, thank you. So you can tell I'm already feeling a bit croaky and I've got to perform tonight. No, I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. You're away from home because you're on tour doing your acting work. Which part of the world are you in?
Don't say it like that. You said it like it doesn't count as work.
I called it acting work. Isn't that not what it is?
Okay. It's more like acting, like stroking your fake beard. Because you've actually got a beard.
I've got a beard.
Yeah, I'm in Canberra.
Oh. Yeah. So how long are you there for?
2 days. So we've got a performance tonight and a performance tomorrow night.
And where's Canberra in relation to the Gold Coast?
Sorry, you asked me a question just as I took some water. It's south. So Canberra is like a little territory they built in the middle of New South Wales.
Did you have to fly there?
I did. Yes, I flew here last night. Yes.
And so you're sweet to be from the glamour of a hotel room, are you?
It smells like 100 questions. I mean, I wouldn't call it glamorous. It is a mercure, though, darling.
Well, I can't tell because you blurred the background, so I don't know quite how shabby it is.
It's just white walls, and it's not that shabby. I've stayed in worse, so that's quite good. And actually, I had a fairly decent night's sleep last night, so that's good as well.
So we need to talk because the last podcast we recorded, I explained that it was late here. My dog was sleeping in the same room. So I was sat in darkness. And then after that, you decided you thought it'd be a good idea to create some TikToks of what's meant to be an audio podcast. And you were sort of sat there with your makeup on, looking resplendent. And I was plunged in darkness.
Ed, I told you not to tell the audience about me wearing makeup.
So now that you've made it an audio-visual experience, I've had to, upon your recommendation, purchase something which I didn't think I'd ever have to buy, which is a ring light that sits aloft my laptop to put me into glorious Technicolor.
This is what I do to people. I improve their lives.
I'm not sure that making me spend money on Amazon for a ring light is improving my life.
How much did you spend? Like £5, surely. It can't be that much.
Black Friday sale was very well timed.
Well done.
I haven't spent
very much.
About
you. But also, it is an audio-visual experience. I don't know where I got the idea from. I was like, well, we have all these, like, because, you know, we want to spread the word of the podcast, right? Because I think it's a valuable podcast.
Yeah,
and
it's doing well.
It is. It's doing very well, actually. Oh, that's the other thing. Oh, wait. Remind me about the other thing in a moment, because otherwise I'll forget.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I was like, well, we have all this video footage. I know how to create rather decent videos because I've got like 33,000 followers on TikTok. So I was like, why don't we start a TikTok? And then aren't we going to set up an Instagram as well at some point?
We are.
We can just multiply the content.
No, the TikToks do remarkably well. We're getting a lot of people viewing the TikToks. It just would have been nice to have been forewarned that we were going to be making TikToks. And secondly, I've also noticed with your editing, you sort of provide expert advice on the laws, and I sort of chirp in with a yes, I agree, or some totally useless additional fact.
In my defense,
balance this up is what needs happening.
No, you're not wrong. And in my defense, I was aware that I didn't want it to become basically a narcissistic exercise of me, but also I am a narcissist. So I'm surprised you'd expect anything less.
Wow.
However, no, all I would say is I am honestly trying to edit them with balance. Obviously, I know I am. Don't raise your eyebrows at me, mister. And added to that, I also have kept your appearances on there to a minimum because people can't see your face. So that makes it a little more difficult. So those be the reasons. But I don't want everyone to think I think I'm the expert and Edward is not. I will try and bring it up. Added to that, I did also ask for you to send me some moments that you thought were that I could put on there. And because I know my brain generally skews towards my voice, so your brain might skew towards your voice. So I've actually got a pen and notepad to write down any interesting things you say. And also, I was going to do like a little series of Ed's Fun Facts, but I've just not got around to doing them yet.
Okay. All
Is
right,
that fair?
well, you're forgiven then. What was the other thing you wanted to be reminded of?
Oh, I was going to say I've completely forgotten. But no, talking about how well the podcast is doing. Do you remember I sent you a message the other week and I was like, how cool would it be if we got to 1,000 plays before we recorded the next episode?
Yeah.
We're at 1,043.
Amazing.
Can't see that because it's blurred. Yeah.
No,
1,043, which is awesome from like 6 episodes.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very happy with that.
You should.
And interestingly, sort of the TikTok and the Facebook page has been driving quite a lot of people towards the podcast, which is also really good as well. We've had lots of engagement on Facebook, even though it's a bit of a dated social media. But no, it's good. Really good that we're getting more and more listeners and more people contacting us. So I'm very, very happy with that.
Me too. And the problems with Facebook is it's not an audio visual experience anymore, not like TikTok and this podcast is. So actually this podcast is now better than Facebook.
Yeah, no, it's good. Really good.
It's been a productive week.
So I thought we'd talk about some news items first of all this week, as per usual. I think I ought to mention, because I'm Mr. Pro Diversity and Inclusion, that whilst we're sat recording this,
I am as well.
Oh no, yeah, okay, you are as well. But whilst we're recording this, I've got the Germany Costa Rica game on the TV in the background.
Oh, lovely, right.
And the reason why that's significant is it's the first ever all-female refereeing team at a World Cup.
Is that the game? That's awesome.
Yeah. So that is happening right now. So that's very, very exciting. A world's first.
Big up the women.
I can't quite believe that it's taken this long for it to happen. I still can't quite believe we've never had a female refereeing in the Premier League yet in the middle.
There was Sean Massey, wasn't there? She was on the line.
Yeah, she was in the line, but we've never had actually in the middle. But hopefully this will be a sign of things to come. I mean, I felt a bit sorry for her because it's a big game, obviously, because it's the group where anybody can go through, depending what the results are. So must-win game for Germany. So big game, a lot of spotlight on her. But best of luck. It seems to be going well so far. So that's good. That was the first bit of...
If you're a referee at the World Cup, like all games are important games, really, aren't they? She would have wanted that, I think. She's like, and actually, I think it's a sign of things to come, because don't they now? I don't really know how it works, but I've got a feeling like whoever gets to do these last round of games, they're then the group of referees that go on to do the last 16 games as well. So actually, it's good that she's in there, because it means she's up for selection for future matches as well. So
that must mean then that our referee out there, who's Anthony Taylor, isn't it? I think who's our referee. He must be through as well, because he refereed I think the game either today or last night. But I don't know. I think that if I was doing my first ever World Cup game,
I want it to be an opener.
I want it to be something that didn't really matter. Whereas there's obviously a lot of attention on this game, so added scrutiny. But listen, if you're good enough to be appointed to the World Cup, you're good enough to do any game. So
exactly right.
Fingers crossed that keeps going well. What was my other bit of news? I had a few bits of news I want to talk about. Oh yeah, I want to talk about, bearing in mind that we're talking about time this evening.
Right.
I thought it was interesting.
But hang on, this isn't a science podcast. The way you said that, it was like we were about to introduce like Sir Stephen Hawking or someone.
Have I taken you by surprise by telling you what the law that we're dealing with tonight, Adam? It is the duration of the match.
The duration of the match. Yes.
And what's been quite interesting is the incredible amounts of added time that's been happening at the World Cup. Have you been aware of this?
Yeah, I've seen a few bits and bobs about it. Aren't they? I've got quite a funny anecdote about this actually, but aren't they adding on like every little second of time lost for ball out of play, anything?
It's not quite that, but Pierluigi Collina, who remember we've talked about before as being on the IFAB advisory board,
the Godfather,
he gave a sort of a press conference in which they explained that we are going to see much more added time than you'd normally see in other games. And the reason being is that they're going to pay particular attention. It's mostly to goal celebrations.
Right.
And I think the comment he made was that on average, a goal celebration takes about 90 seconds.
I can believe that.
And generally speaking, you don't get anywhere near that amount of added time in a game, but they're applying it rigidly. So we are getting some games where, we're getting sort of 7, 8. Well, in fact, I think the England game with Iran, where there was the injury to the keeper, is one of the longest games in modern football in terms of, I think there was like 14 minutes of added time in one half and, similar length the other half. So, so that's why we're seeing these kind of much longer episodes of added time. But interestingly, the Premier League have already said we ain't adopting that. So
no, I'm not surprised.
We're not going to be seeing that back in the Prem. But which I've got a fun fact later on about timings of games, but I'll save it till later because I don't want to get people too excited too early on.
I mean, I've got a feeling it's going to be a pretty short episode, right? So, I mean, they're not going to have to wait long to get there.
You have read this law, haven't you? I mean, there's absolutely
I think so, yeah.
Nothing of interest, controversial, or worthy of debate in this law. I mean, it's. I know it's my mantra every week to say this law's not very exciting, but this law is not very exciting. We might have to split the offside law into like 2 episodes.
I was thinking that, which would be a bit of a shame because I quite like the fact it's an episode of law. What are you drinking, Edward? Is that white wine?
It's white wine.
A Cabernet
It's Thursday night. The
Lovely.
Football's on the telly. 1 day of the week left. It's been a long 4 days.
You're doing it like a proper lad, drinking white wine whilst watching the telly.
Nice Spanish Albarino.
Yes, exactly.
What was my other bit of news? What was I going to say?
What about the Football League that's gone on strike?
Yeah, I mean, I know this kind of is a topic we cover every week, but there's a one. It was an area, wasn't it? I think rather than one individual league where the refs have all gone on strike because of the level of abuse that a referee's been suffering.
Yeah,
I haven't followed that through recently. I saw quite a lot on social media when it happened, but I'm not sure quite how it's resolved itself. But I know the league were, very sympathetic and were backing the referees and the stance they were taking. Have you seen anything more about it at all?
I haven't seen much. I haven't seen an update. I don't think they're back at refereeing. I think they're still on strike and stuff. But I mean, generally, I saw a whole mixture of stuff. I saw lots of people kind of, supporting the refs, and then I saw like Sunday League footballers going, "Oh my goodness, the refs destroying the game for everybody else again," and things. And
well, that's what we try to do. Obviously, it's our aim every week.
Yep. It's not like it's a very strange attitude, isn't it? Because I'm a referee because I love the game and I care about the game an awful lot. And actually, I would put forward to anybody, I'm actually more protective and more passionate about the game than anyone who plays it. And I think you have to be a referee, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to put up with all the crap you get from people all the time. And so just because we don't necessarily kick the ball, I think people think that we're lesser parts of the game. Whereas actually, luckily, these people who have gone on strike, and fair play to them, are proving that actually, no, you'll simply have no football. And that's the result. Yeah.
The other thing I was going to mention was, insofar as news is concerned, just about how the technology that's involved in the World Cup. I don't know, obviously we've been getting now these we talked before about VAR decisions being much better in the Champions League this year because we talked about the technology, and I think we posted some stuff on Twitter about how they're being able to be much more accurate now with the ball. But I didn't realize that I think there's like an electronic chip in the World Cup footballs, because there's been a whole thing about whether did Cristiano Ronaldo score that goal or not. Yes. And there are chips in these footballs, which means that not only does the football has to be pumped up before every game, but it has to be charged as well. Apparently, it has to be sort of charged up like an electronic device, which is what gave the technology to be able to definitively say Ronaldo did not touch the ball.
They're going to start coming up with They're going to start like making the balls glow, aren't they? So they can play in the dark and stuff now. Like, it's getting a bit ridiculous.
We're not playing in the dark.
Oh no, but so it lights up whenever a goal scored or something. I bet, honestly, that'll be the next thing. It's like mobile phones, isn't it? Do you remember when someone said to you, you'll be able to watch a music video on a mobile phone one day? And you're like, no way. And now look at where we are. I'm literally doing this podcast using the internet on my phone. It's crazy. Other news. Have you been refereeing at all? Have you been out doing stuff?
No, I'm because of my shoulder, I haven't really been doing very much at all, unfortunately. But I am going to referee my old football club's Christmas intra-club friendly, which is always a fun affair.
Are you going to wear a Santa hat?
It's that sort of event. Yeah,
you're not allowed to wear a Santa hat as a referee. You will get fined by the FA.
It's an intra-club game, so I don't think anybody's going to be monitoring me. But it's usually
if anybody who is at the game and is listening to this, please set up a GoPro or something so we can watch Ed and we can analyze his decisions. Please, we can put them on TikTok and we can have a look, see how Ed referees. We can replace fun facts with let's analyze Ed's game.
This is about education, not comedy. Just so that we're clear. Just so we're clear.
But the comedy does help.
And the other news was it's not really news, but aren't you sort of in the throes of the fitness test regime?
Yeah, I got the dreaded email the other day that was like, these are the details for the fitness test. And I really do not like the fitness test every single year.
When is the test? That's
I think it's the 17th of January.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And in a nutshell, just tell us what the fitness test involves.
So we do so in the UK it was a bit different. Like it's not the 17th of January, it's another day in January. Anyway.
Harder in Australia or harder in UK?
I think it's harder in Australia because I'm having to go at a higher level.
Okay.
So in the UK, I used to have to run 2,600 meters, so 2.6K in 12 minutes flat.
Yeah.
And you got one attempt and you wasn't allowed to stop. If you stopped, that's it, you was out. And then you had to do 4, I think. It might have only been 2 50-meter sprints in 7.5 seconds. The sprinting was fine, but the 2.6K, I think I only had 1 year where it actually felt comfortable. But equal to that is, on my own worst enemy, really, I kind of like, because I know I'm fit enough, like I don't always practice like I should. And so I just didn't really train specifically for it. And now here in Queensland, what we do is, I'm in Canberra at the minute, but in Queensland, we do the dynamic yo-yo test. So we have to run, it's a beep test, and we have to run 40 meters between cones in kind of like an arc pattern. So it's like you run, then you have to turn, you'd have to turn all the way around. You don't have to do a 180. And it's amazing how much time that saves you not having to do a 180. And I have to, in order to be able to referee at the level, which I did last season, I've got to get up to 18.5, which means I'm running about 1,928 meters or something.
Okay.
I think it will take about 18 minutes, but it's like sprinting. It's hard. It is hard, and you don't get much rest. So, it's like, it is what it is. I mean, if I can get to 18.8, that's the same level of fitness that the FIFA referees have. That's what they have to do. So it's a high bar. But I passed it last year. So and I've got all my stuff with me down here in Canberra to pass the fitness test, to practice. So I'm going to go out once we're done with this and practice it, set up my cone, set up my tape measure, put on my shoes.
Very good.
Not die. And I've also got an app on my Garmin, which is pretty cool, which one of the referees here in Queensland has developed, that times it all for you. So that's good as well.
Nice.
But I've got some terrible anecdotes about refereeing. So the first one, I was so nervous. The refereeing fitness tests. I was so nervous. Like, I don't think you can understand how nervous I was. I'd probably drunk like 3 coffees. Because obviously, like, everyone knew I was a personal trainer. So I felt like there was a lot of pressure on me for this, right? And we all sort of lined up on the line, and the referees were there. They blew their whistles, off we went, and we started running. And I was wearing white. This is very important detail. I was wearing white West Ham shorts, okay, and just a top. I can't remember what top.
Is this a sort of adult-only story?
It is. It is a bit of an adult-only story, right? I know it's not good. And I
you want to share this?
Oh, I've shared it before. And I was running for like two laps, and I was feeling really rough. And then suddenly I remember coming down the home straight, and then suddenly I was feeling an awful lot better, and I didn't know why. And like all this pressure that was inside me had been released, and I carried on, finished the fitness test, and then I pulled up to the side and was just like sick, like I vomited everywhere. And then I'd realized what had happened, and I had to go to the St. John's ambulance and clean up and everything. And then I came out of the St. John's ambulance. I cleaned up, came out of St. John's ambulance. They said I'm fine. There's no worries. And I was okay. And then I had to go and do my sprints. Did my sprints, passed the fitness test.
Is this a long way of telling us that you sawed yourself during the fitness test?
It is.
Bloody hell.
Well, it just goes to show that we all get nervous, that it's not always easy, and it's okay for stuff to go wrong, I suppose. But I like, my determination was I'm not redoing this fitness test, and I carried on. But I genuinely didn't know what had happened until I'd finished. Genuinely had no idea.
That's what happens as you get old, Adam.
and now this was in the UK, by the way, so anyone in Australia, this hasn't happened since I've been in Australia. And now, like, before every fitness test, I take like Imodium, and I just make sure that I'm going to be okay.
Oh God, I wish I didn't mention that now.
I told you I had some stories.
Right, is that it on the sort of stories?
Oh yeah, so. And everyone in Australia who's getting ready for it, good luck. If you want to ask me any questions about it, then do. But I'm sure you'll be fine. Just practice. You like, it's almost a skill within itself to pass a fitness test without actually kind of like, you can be fit enough to referee without being fit enough to do the fitness test in some ways. So yeah, you just have to get yourself ready for the fitness test.
I find it hard to believe that some of the Premiership refs actually pass the fitness test. I mean, I don't want to be too disparaging, but there are some people there that look as though they're not built for running, and the fitness test is quite challenging, I think.
It is, and we also shouldn't judge people based on the way they look, Edward.
Well, the reality is, though, that normally when people look a little bit oversized, they struggle with running. It's a simple fact. Don't think I'm, betraying any confidences there. Anyway, shall we talk about the this week's law, which is obviously very, very exciting. It's going to take at least 3 or 4 minutes.
Should we do it like a pop quiz? Ed, how long is the duration of a match?
Well, I mean, it is that basic because part 1 of law number 7 is about periods of play, and it'll come as an enormous surprise to you to learn that the match lasts for 2 equal halves of 45 minutes, Adam.
It does.
And in what circumstances can that figure be reduced?
If it has been agreed between the referee and the 2 teams before the start of the match, and if in accordance with competition rules.
There we go. That's the first part of Law 7. Second part of Law 7, equally thrilling. Players are entitled to an interval at half time, not exceeding 15 minutes. I don't know where your not less than 10 minutes came from. I think you imagined that last week when you said that, but it's no more than 15. Right. And how much time do you have if there's extra time in the match? How much do you give them in the breaks between the 2 halves of extra time?
I don't know.
Oh, it's
what are you talking
1 minute.
About? Is it
1 minute?
Okay.
Yeah, 1 minute's permitted. That's in the law, Adam, that you obviously read studiously.
Wait, a short drinks break which should not exceed 1 minute. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't say drinks break.
But it's the half time. I said the half time in extra time. If you read it, half time, extra time.
We're establishing Adam can't read. Players are entitled to an interval at half time, not exceeding 15 minutes. A short drinks break, which should not exceed 1 minute. No, the way you're saying it made me think that the drinks break was in half time. That's what was confusing me. I know he had the rightful look, but that's what was confusing me. And so that basically means that during a game, on like a hot day or whatever, you're allowed to give teams a drinks break, but it's not allowed to last longer than a minute. Otherwise, Pierre Collini, what's his name? I was going to say
Pierluigi Collina.
It is Pierluigi Collina.
It's not just when it's hot. It's just in the laws of the
Whenever.
game say if you've got extra time, you can have a 1 minute interval between your two halves. So
Oh, it's for extra
got it?
time. I have
Oh.
now. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. It's permitted at the interval of half time in extra time. Okay. Right.
This feels like a voyage of discovery for you, this law, Adam. I love the level of prep that you put into our podcast.
How
Interesting. What to learn? There's law. I know. It's fascinating, isn't it? That's the whole idea of the podcast. But I think the listeners would probably have appreciated if you'd actually looked at it before we started recording. Thank God one of us does the prep. Anyway, part three is the allowance for time lost, which is, I suppose, moderately interesting. So, Adam, question for you, which obviously you will know. Oh, God's sake.
I got it.
What are the events that a referee can make allowance for in adding time? Come on, hit me with the list.
Substitutions.
Yeah.
Assessment after removal of injured players.
And
yeah, okay. I can't read either. Wasting time, which I'm doing a good job of here. Disciplinary sanctions. Yeah. Medical stoppages. Is a medical stoppage different to an injury?
Yeah, I think so. Because I think an injury, generally speaking, so that's just when somebody's sort of down on the floor and they have to pause the game. Whereas medical is where you're obviously getting the physios on. I assume is the distinction between the two.
Added to that, this is why I was confused. E.g., a drinks break. It is in the laws of the game, thank you, which should not exceed 1 minute, and cooling breaks. So who hasn't read the law, Edward?
Hold on, I'm asking the question about the law that I've read, and you're meant to be giving me the answers. I know the answers.
You're allowed a cooling break. Did you know that?
Yeah. Well, you can have drinks breaks, can't you? I mean, that happens. I mean,
no. A drinks break is different to a cooling break.
Yeah, well, we don't really have much need for that in the UK.
In the UK, no.
And then you've got the VAR.
Delays relating to VAR checks.
Yeah.
That's probably why so much time is being added on at the World Cup, isn't it?
I know, it's a bit tedious.
And any other cause.
Yeah.
So basically, you add time for everything. But it doesn't say, does it? Actually, it doesn't say for ball out of play.
No, it doesn't. But I suppose that would probably come under sort of wasting time, wouldn't it? Because strictly speaking, if you scored a goal, you should all trot back into your own half and you wouldn't lose much time at all. Goal celebrations and loitering around the goal is probably viewed as sort of wasting time. So
yeah, I mean, I was talking more like, like if the ball goes out for a goal kick and it takes 20 seconds to get it back and things like that, like you don't add that time on. So when I first started refereeing, this was before I'd done like my course and everything. I was just doing it with mates. I used to stop the watch every time the ball was out of play. And they were like, my God, how long is this half?
I was going to say, how long do the matches go on for?
I know. We was there for about 2.5 hours.
So the other thing about it says is obviously, I mean, I think when it comes to that, actually, just on that topic, I think obviously you're not stopping it every time it goes out of play, but I think what I tend to do, if I've got a goalkeeper who is deliberately wasting time, by sort of, I'm just going to take it from this side of the 6-yard box. Oh, no, let me take it the other side of the 6-yard box. Oh, hold on, I'm not going to take it now after all. I'm going to let the defender come back and take it. I mean, that's a very obvious ploy that we see time and time again. And I make it clear when that happens that I am adding time onto it to try, make them desist from that. And
how do you, so how do you do that? Like, what's your process in letting them know that, just out of interest?
So I make a very obvious gesture that I am pausing time on my watch, because it's usually the players from the team who haven't got possession of the ball that are most aggrieved about it, and so I sort of generally just sort of hold my watch up and say, no, aware of that. I'm stopping the clock. This would be added time. I say it very vocally so that everybody hears me, and of course the ultimate sanction for a goalkeeper that keeps on persisting on doing that is yellow cards, which we kind of see quite often when you're watching.
So I mean, like, I think this is a good point of discussion. Like, obviously, you don't want, like, say it's a goal kick, for instance, right? Like, the goalkeeper's in the 6-yard box. Now he's entitled to take the goal kick from anywhere in that goal area. It doesn't have to be from the side the ball left the field, right? Like you're entitled to take it from whatever position. So he's entitled to run across and put it on the other side. Like he is entitled to do that, right?
Yep, no problem with that.
And then, so that's one point. But then the other point is if he just start kind of, tapping his studs on the post and doing his shoelace up or whatever, then often what I see some referees do is they'll like run back to him, talk to him, and then run all the way back and then blow their whistle that they're ready to restart play. And they'll just have a chat. Like I would argue that if you're going to have a chat with the goalkeeper, do it when you're a lot closer to the goalkeeper, and especially if it's a tense game, and not everybody is kind of waiting for for you to do that, because then that's more delayed time. So all I do is I literally just hold both my hands above my head. I make it very obvious that I'm stopping, in inverted commas, stopping the watch. And I say to everyone, don't worry, he's not getting the time. I'm stopping my watch, and just literally so the whole ground can see the hands above my head. It helps that I'm 6'8" or whatever I am, 6'4", and so everyone's really obvious. And then when when the other team moan at me, I'm like, don't worry, he's not getting it. I've stopped my watch. And then when they see you do that, and I just shout at the goalkeeper, and I'm like, mate, you're not getting this time. Don't worry. And that's it. And then you only, because by going to talk to him to stop time wasting, you're now wasting more time, and that just makes people more annoyed.
I tend to do that, because I agree with you. I think that just sort of slows everything down anyway. And the reality is, it's not a huge problem. It's usually towards the end of games that it's happening, where one team is trying to hang on for a draw, where they've been under the cosh, or they're one goal up, and it's kind of the very tail end part of a game that mostly happens. Most of the time during the game, people aren't particularly bothered about it. But yeah, no, I agree. It's just sort of very sort of obvious gesture, so that people know that you are, paying attention to it all. And then obviously it's the referee's job when you're doing it, unless you've got a fourth official. The fourth official then is the person that is responsible if you've got a fourth official for timekeeping. Part 4 relates to a question. It was a couple of podcasts ago that I asked you about. Remember, I said to you there'd been a VAR decision after the 90 minutes was up, and the referee allowed the penalty to be taken that was spotted on VAR infringement. And I remember I asked you the question, how long would you have allowed to be played, because it's a penalty kick which has been added? So I don't know whether this answers the question or not. Part 4 says penalty kick. If a penalty kick has to be taken or retaken, the half is extended until the penalty kick is completed, right? Which is kind of that VAR scenario, isn't it, that we had? But it's interesting. It says the penalty kick. And so it's not the phase of play. It's not, it's quite specific, isn't it, about saying you allow the penalty kick to happen. I can't hear you, Adam. Some might say this is a listener's dream. Oh, he's back. Listeners are sort of saying to themselves at the moment, why did Ed bring that to his attention? After all, Adam hasn't even read the law anyway, so why is he bothering? You're back with us.
I'm trying to reconnect.
God, blimey, honestly.
Amateurs.
No, amateurs is plural.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, yeah.
Oh, right. I don't know what happened to my microphone. Oh, golly, it's all gone Pete Tom. I am getting a new microphone for Christmas, I hope. So that will help. Right, well, if you can hear me, I suppose it's just to make sure that we don't, because the situation would occur where a referee somewhere in the world would almost certainly stop play before, would finish the game before the penalty kick was to be done, right? But a penalty kick is such a charged moment. It makes sense that it has to be completed, right?
But it is quite specific, though, isn't it? I mean, if they want to be interpreted as ensuing rebounds or until the phase of play ends, it's perfectly open to say that, and they tend to be pretty specific where they can be. But it simply says until the penalty kick is completed, which is was my interpretation of, I think, how it should have been applied, and I think you sort of took a slightly different view. But anyway, that may or may not be listeners' views.
Yeah, wasn't there a situation like this at the World Cup recently where the referee had finished the game and VAR asked him to go back and look at a situation?
No, that was the Champions League. I don't think it's been anything like that at the World Cup. That was the Champions League game that I told you about, where that was the Atletico Madrid game where Atletico had to score.
I honestly thought I saw something like that on the World Cup as well.
I don't think so. But then again,
you would know. I'm not watching it, so you would know.
Well, as we discussed before, I'm not really watching it with much enthusiasm, and I probably watched less games at this World Cup than any previous World Cup that I can remember. So, I mean, a lot of the games are whilst I'm working, and the evenings, well, I sort of catch the odd game or two, but there we go. Part 5 of Law 7, which is the last part of Law 7, simply says, an abandoned match is replayed unless the competition rules or organisers determine otherwise. Well, that was, fascinating. And that is law number 7 wrapped up.
In my defense, last week, I think I said we'd be able to do it in about 3 minutes. That took longer than 3 minutes.
It did, but only because we sort of talked about various things. The law itself is very, very basic.
It's very basic. It just goes to show though, doesn't it, what like managing a sport must be like? Because even all the things we take for granted, you still have to have written down, because at some point in some place, there will be a problem if this wasn't written down.
Yeah, I mean, I still think some of these laws are not as easy to understand as they could be. I mean, I'm also a lawyer, and one of the essential elements of a good law is that it's easily understood. I'm not entirely convinced that the laws of football are
that easy to understand.
They could be. We've had a few occasions, so far where we've sort of had to debate as precisely what's meant, and we've been unable sometimes to come to a definitive answer. But
which is encouraging, because I've got to do a laws test as well this next year. So yeah, we better step up our recording, because I need to revise.
So going to our postbag this week, there was one that sort of stood out, which is the one where someone asked us if we'd be prepared to sort of discuss the 2 VAR decisions from the England-Iran game. So are you happy to discuss that? I mean, I didn't watch the game live, but I have watched the highlights, and I have seen the 2 VAR instances, and I've also read quite a bit about them online to get sort of different people's perspectives. But just to put it into context, I think there was, at the beginning of the game, a penalty shout for England.
Yes.
Harry Maguire was complaining that he'd had his shirt pulled, and I think VAR decided no penalty. And then towards the end of the game, the scoreline, I suspect, may have played some part in the decision-making process, but at that stage, it's 6-1 to England. Some might say an almost identical incident at the other end of the pitch, with the Iranian player arguably getting less shirt pulling than Maguire had, and a penalty was given. I've got a view as to quite why they came to that decision, but largely based on stuff I've read about it online. But I mean, any thoughts yourself about it?
I mean, it was. So I think it was a comment on Facebook, wasn't it, one of the listeners? So thank you for that. And he wanted us to kind of maybe open up a section of the podcast that was about kind of analysing these decisions and stuff. And I'm happy to sort of discuss them. I'm never going to get into a case where I want to dig referees out, like I said at the start, because I think lots of people do that online. It's just not worth it. I'd much prefer to focus on coaching referees and telling you how to improve your game. But I think there's a lot of learning opportunity from it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think discussing this is in any way criticising the referee. And in any event, it was really a VAR decision. So if we're criticising anything, it's VAR.
Yeah, but, which are still referees in a room.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at them both. At the end of the day, as we'll learn as we get onto it in the next few episodes, any shirt pull, any pull of an opponent is a foul and probably should be a penalty. I think the greater learning point on it is really its context of game, and that's something that we can't. That it's kind of like one of those unwritten rules of refereeing that if any footballer actually ever found out that we do it, they would get up in arms about it because, oh no, if it's a penalty here, it should be a penalty there, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, that like the Harry Maguire one was the very, very first like set piece of the game and stuff like that. And was it wide and open and obvious? I mean, I think it was, but I can see why you're like, no, let's just calm down. It's the first game. Let's just get our feet under the table. Let's keep a lid on things. Let's not blow games out of the equation for people and stuff like that. Like let's just like that's that. I think in many games, the softer penalty shouts in those kinds of situations, I think they can be kind of calmed down a little bit easier at the start of a game in a World Cup like that, or in a tense game, compared to later on in the game where they all become a little bit more critical. And also you've adjudged the level of physicality you're going to allow the players to have in the game. So therefore the kind of the way you decide on where you're going to draw the line there based on the whole experience of the game might change slightly. I do think though this was probably I think both were a penalty.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the reality is that shirt pulling is a foul, and so
a pull of anything, a pull of an arm, a pull of a leg, a pull of a hair,
and if it's done in the penalty area, it's a penalty, and so strictly speaking, that should be the case. I get everything you say about when it occurs in the game and the nature of the game. That all makes perfect sense. I mean, I thought it was fairly obvious, what happened to him. I mean, I thought he was pretty severely restricted.
What happened to Harry? He was rugby tackled. Let's call it what it was.
He was being held back.
He was being held around the waist and pulled down to the floor.
And I get a bit annoyed by people say, the argument about, what if we gave every shirt pull, we'd have penalties all the time.
That wasn't a shirt pull. He literally bundled him to the floor.
But even still, because this happens a lot, sort of in court at corners, people being sort of manhandled. And the fact is, if that's what's happening and it's a foul, they should be given, regardless of whether that means there'll be a lot more penalties. Yeah. I think a lot of the arguments online which try to justify the different approach, or certainly what some of the pundits were saying, was that you have to take into account what impact that had on the player's ability to play the ball. And I think the sort of considered view with Maguire was, yes, he was impeded. Question number two, would he have actually been able to make contact with the ball? Probably not. He was a bit of distance away. There's a lot going on between him and the ball. Whereas I think it's fair to say that in the decision that was given, I mean, I don't think it was a huge amount of contact personally, but
I don't know. It was enough contact to quantify a foul. They pulled his shirt from behind. Like the England players grabbing the shirt from behind his back, and just because he's behind him, just because the player who's being fouled is behind the player doing it, still makes it a foul.
But I think he was closer to where the ball was coming, and so there is a much stronger argument. I mean, a foul's a foul, but there's a much stronger argument for saying that foul prevented him from having the opportunity of striking the ball.
Yes. And
explains it.
It does, but it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't really, because that's like saying, well, anything off the ball doesn't count. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do understand that, especially at a corner. Like when I'm refereeing a corner, I'm looking. Did Germany score?
No, but Costa Rica have equalised.
Oh wow!
And Germany have just hit the post. It's all happening, Adam. You'll forgive me that I've got one eye on the football screen, the TV that is. But yeah, it's all happening. Good Lord.
People are gonna think they tuned into Radio 5 Live. And so when I'm refereeing a corner, I'm looking predominantly at where the ball is going to land and how the players who are playing the ball are going to be affected for a foul. That being said, if I see it, because that's the other thing as well, like that's generally where you're looking in what's called the landing zone, right? Where the ball is going to land. And if you're looking there, then off the ball, like at the near post, say the ball's landing on the far post, the near post, you might not see it. Like I always stand quite a way away. I always look at a wide angle, like I'm always in and around the D, so I can kind of see everything. But equally, you know, something that large, that obvious, that big, you know, I think you do still have to take into account there's a foul. Otherwise, it's open season for
I
players
agree.
who are nowhere near the ball to do whatever they want to each other. Because equally, you don't know how the ball is going to be played, and you don't know if that foul has then affected that guy's ability to get to the rebound, to pick the ball up, to whatever, like kick the deflection.
I will say this though, in defence referees, it's so difficult when you've got a really congested penalty box, and you obviously targeting your eyes, you say, on the landing zone of the ball, because that's what you've got to do. That it's so difficult to see what's going on everywhere. I mean, you simply can't. I mean, that's and the reality is, you might miss something. I mean, we're not perfect, and there's just so much going on.
I think,
and we can't see it all.
I understand why the referee might not have seen that. But then I think really looking at it to VAR, I'm surprised, because that's the point of VAR, right? To be another set of eyes in those situations. And I think it probably should have been an England penalty. And then the Iranian penalty was a penalty. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, there we go. So as ever, if anybody has any questions they want to send in or ask us for our observations or comments about, then get in touch with us through the usual channels.
Can I just say as well, like, we put out a direct appeal last week, and we haven't had many questions come in this week. I don't know if it's because people are, and so, come on, please dig us out of a hole.
Yeah, no, because we don't get huge amounts of questions, but it'd be nice to be able to deal with them. But red and yellow pods,
that at gmail.com, or just ask us on Facebook or TikTok now. But we don't get many, so that means we can give our full attention to the ones.
Absolutely. So I think maybe some people are thinking, I won't message in because they never get around to it. But quite the contrary, we've got a very good prospect of us getting to deal with it. So,
and if you want a name drop, you can have one.
Exactly. So I think, Adam, all that leaves us is...
Oh, you're ready for the jingle?
My fun facts.
My fun facts. Cue jingle. It's now time for Ed's Fun Facts. Lovely.
So, I've tried to keep my fun facts, as you might expect, to matters relating to time. When did the idea of 90-minute games first occur, Adam? I need a year.
Right, so it nearly always happens around the World Cup. 1936.
No. 1866 is when
I got the 6 right.
There was the first game that was decided to be 90 minutes. That was a game between London and Sheffield, and the two teams decided that they were going to have a fixed period of time for the match. They thought it was going to be a period of time which would be enough to tire everybody out.
Right.
And they settled on 90 minutes. But it didn't actually become official law until, so that's the first note of it happening. But so 1866, it first happened. When do you think it became part of the laws, the game?
1910.
No, a little earlier than that, 1897.
I was going to go 18 something. I thought, nah, hey-ho.
When do you think the concept of changing ends at half time got introduced?
I get really uncomfortable with these questions. I'm like, I don't know. Leave me alone.
You told me last week how good you were at these referee.
Not at all. I think one episode I got like 3 pretty good. A change of ends at half time.
Yeah.
But what was the answer to the last one? 1896 or something.
So it was 1866 was when there was a first match that was to 90 minutes. 1897 when it became law. But when did the concept of changing ends at half time get introduced into what were called the Sheffield rules?
Oh, we've heard about those before.
We have heard about the Sheffield rules before.
I don't remember. Let's go 1908.
No, it's actually even earlier than the 90 minutes. It was 1862. But interestingly,
trick question.
They only, at the initial stages of the introduction of that idea of half-time changing ends, it was only if there hadn't been any goal, depending on there having been no goal scored in the first period of play.
Oh,
So if no goals
interesting.
scored, they didn't change ends.
But wait,
So
they only established it was a 90-minute game when, sorry?
1866.
And they decided to change ends at halftime
1862. Because before that, they would play for different lengths of time. So they'd play for like 2-hour matches.
But then right. But they'd always put a time cap on it. I was going to say, how do they know what half time is if they didn't know how long the game was?
I think it was either Sheffield or London were in the habit of playing sort of 2-hour games prior to the changes.
It's like AFL. It goes on forever. It's horrible.
When did the laws of the game add the law which said that the team that has the greatest number of goals wins the match?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
When did the law come in that states the team that has the most amount of goals wins the match?
Yeah.
Surely at the inception of football.
No, because what they would do previously was they would keep playing until there was someone winning. So it went on forever.
Wait, but surely someone's always winning.
No,
unless it's 0-0
or draw.
Yeah, but so in order to create a result, someone has to like go up in front. What? So do you mean like if the 2 hours had been passed, then it was still a draw? They just keep playing.
Yeah.
Right.
And
this hurts my brain.
Although we've talked about the extra time. When was extra time first written into the laws of the game for matches that needed to be a definitive result? When will that happen?
1942.
No, that was 1897 when it was written to the laws of the game, but it didn't really become a worldwide norm until 1970.
A worldwide norm. Was that the precursor to the World Wide Web?
And that became important because there'd been instances where there'd been matches where they had just kept on playing forever and ever until they got a result. So I think the longest recorded length of time. What do you think is the longest length of time recorded for a match, a competitive match?
Oh, like 4.5 hours.
Yeah, not bad. 3 hours and 23 minutes.
Yeah.
Was a game. I know it involved Doncaster. I can't remember who their opponents were. Doncaster Rovers and Stockport County.
That's like,
March,
do you remember?
It was 1946.
Do you remember that John Isner, Nicola Mahoo match in tennis?
Yeah, that went on forever.
Went on for like 3 days, didn't it?
Yeah. Another little fun fact. Just we were talking about the times of matches and added time that they're playing in the World Cup. Oh my word! Costa Rica have just gone 2-1 up.
Oh wow!
Looks like Germany are headed out of the World Cup. Same day.
Breaking news. But by the time I get this edited, it won't be.
That's quite incredible.
What's the time left on the clock? Because really, that's what this is about.
20 minutes left. 20 minutes left.
Right.
So
plenty of time.
So yeah, going back to amount of added time. So in 2017, IFAB, who as we know are the governing body of the laws, they came up with an idea which they labelled play fair, and they were thinking about changing the match length to 60 minutes and stopping
for that.
The clock every time the ball went out of play.
Oh, I wouldn't be up for that.
Because the stats show that less than 60 minutes of football is actually played in a 90-minute game. I think it's quite a bit lower than that, actually. But they talked about that. And they also, as part of that, just talked about whether or not they were going to increase the halftime break by 5 minutes to 20 minutes. And apparently the only people that were very much in favour of that were the advertisers that would get 5 more minutes of commercial time. But no one else was really that bothered about it. VAR check on the goal, by the way.
Oh, Adam. Lovely. It's very important. As we're talking about half time, it was a goal.
Yeah.
It's a goal. John Murray, we are
goal.
not. Hey, as we're talking about halftime, we actually have a fun fact from a listener this week.
We do. Yeah. Do you want to deal with that one before I give you my last little fun fact quiz?
So this is one of our loyal listeners, which she likes to be called. Her name is Lacey. Don't worry, I checked, lawyer Ed. I checked. And she decided she messaged me on Instagram and was like, I've got a fun fact about like halftime. Do you want to know it? It's all about West Ham. I was like, yeah, why don't you send it to me as a voice note? So I'm going to hand over to Lacey.
Hello, Adam and Ed. So, not to steal Ed's Fun Facts thunder, but I have a fact about West Ham's halftime break. So, out of all the Premier League teams, West Ham is the only team that's allowed 1 extra minute during halftime. So, instead of the standard 15, they get 16 minutes. And apparently this is because of the distance between the changing rooms and the pitch. Personally, I've done that walk and I don't think it's that long. But yeah, hope you enjoyed my facts.
How interesting was that? West Ham get an extra minute at the end of or during half time because apparently their dressing room is too far away.
Well, have you ever been to London Stadium?
No.
So
I've refereed at Upton Park, but I've never been to London Stadium.
I've sat in the director's box at the London Stadium.
Oh, how la-di-da. How did you waggle that one, sir? You are hoity-toity, aren't you?
The one thing that struck me when I was there was
I love how you just ignored that.
how far the director's box. Bear in mind, the director's box is obviously got to be like A1 position in the stadium. I mean, it was so far from the dugout, which in turn is so far from the touchline. I mean, it is insane. I mean, I can perfectly understand why they get the extra minute. I mean, I'm sorry to all the West Ham fans out there, but the London Stadium is just the worst stadium for watching football. Keeping the running track, I'm afraid to say, has been a bit of a disaster. And of course, it was designed as a round stadium for the Olympics. And so the rectangular shape of the pitch means that, you know, if you are along the touchlines, you are miles away from the action. So I perfectly understand that.
Weren't they going to like make the seats retractable?
Yeah, I think they were going to. They've done some changes to the seating, I think, in the corners to bring fans a little bit closer in.
Right.
But honestly, the touchlines, it's mad. I mean, it's just incredible how far back it is. So
is Karen Brady still in charge?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she was there in the director's box the day I was there.
Is that why you was there? Was you representative for some reason?
Joe Cole was there.
Joe Cole, he's a nice guy.
And who's the annoying host of American TV that used to be in
James Corden?
James Corden was there.
Yeah, it was the other guy, Ben Phillips. Is his name Ben Phillips? Ben, the guy who does ITV. Good morning ITV.
No.
He's normally there as well if James is there. So the only time I've been in the director's box, darling, I met John Watson.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was working at Upton Park.
Which director's? Oh, was that Upton Park? Was it? Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah.
Right. Some quick fire questions as part of the fun facts, Adam.
Right.
Fastest goal in the World Cup. I want to know who it was by.
Oh God, I don't know.
And when it was, and how long it was.
22 seconds.
No, it was quicker than that.
Was it?
Yeah.
It would have been a team like. Is it a European team?
Yeah, European.
Okay.
Oh, crikey, that's.
Oh, Russia?
No,
Australia.
Turkey?
Australia.
Turkey's European, isn't it? Turkey,
yeah,
European?
Turkey's in Europe. Yeah. So if it was Turkey, was it a Rodican or someone, or is that the referee who's from Turkey?
It was 2002. So the
Shakir, no.
South Korean World Cup. Hakan Suka.
Suka, that's it. Yeah, Suka.
11 seconds.
Wow, that is quick.
What do you? I mean, there's a lot of sort of dispute about, you know, because there's lots of criteria about, you know, was it a Premiership game? Was it a official game? Whatever. But the fastest Premiership goal that I think I found. Do you know who that was by?
I know the FA Cup one. Are you going to ask me about the FA Cup?
No.
Oh, what's the point of me being here? The FA Cup one, wasn't that Chelsea? Wasn't that your lot? Roberto Di Matteo in like 1997, maybe? He scored in like 15 seconds.
Lots of websites say that the quickest goal in the Prem is Nicholas Bentner.
Oh yeah, I can believe that. The Dane.
1.8 seconds, apparently.
Wow, what?
Playing,
What do you do?
playing
Shoot
against
from the halfway
Spurs.
line?
Well, as you know, you can shoot from the halfway line. You can shoot from kickoff and score a goal.
You can now. You never used to be able to.
Perfectly legitimate thing to do.
They changed that.
Germany just hit the crossbar, by the way, just to add to the excitement.
The drama. It's building.
There's only one England football player in the top 10 of fastest World Cup goals. And if I tell you it was in France,
1990.
sorry, against France,
right.
in the World Cup in Spain.
When was the World Cup in Spain?
It was 19 something, because I can't read the end of my screenshot.
Oh, great prep.
But yeah, do you know who it was?
World Cup in Spain. Well, I need to know what year it was.
When was Spain? Spanish World Cup.
2010? No, South Africa. 1982. España.
Right.
So I'm looking for a 1982.
1982 England player who scored after 27 seconds.
That's well before my era. That would have been someone like...
I think he was captain.
Oh, that doesn't help me. George Shreves, was that a player? No.
Shreves.
Peter Beardsley. John Barnes.
No. Brian Robson is the answer.
Oh, that makes sense. Just a little before my time.
Final quick questions for you. There are only 3 footballers who have scored goals in every minute of the 90-minute game. So by that, they've scored in the first minute of a match at some point, second minute of a match, all the way through to 90 minutes.
In their careers.
Good question, isn't it?
That's crazy. Alan Shearer's got to be one of them.
There are only 3 that have done it.
In the Premiership or in global football?
No, this is, I think it's global football, but they're 3 European footballers.
So there's not an Englishman?
No, there's no Englishman.
Right. Bloody hell.
So if I give you their countries, will that help?
It might.
Portuguese.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Correct. Germany. Not recent.
No.
Not
Franz Beckenbauer. Was Franz Beckenbauer a striker?
He was a midfielder, but you're not, that era's not, you're not bad. It's Gerd Müller.
Okay, Müller.
And then finally, last European player this is awkward. He is from, oh crikey.
Oh golly, he's having to go to the phone. Oh,
is he
here
Croatian?
I was getting a load of crap. Here I was getting an absolute load of crap from you for not doing my prep.
He's Swedish. He's Swedish.
Swedish. Oh, Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Yes, there we go. That is the and finally, yes, and finally, what's the longest penalty shootout there's been in sort of professional football?
Oh,
how many spot kicks? How many spot kicks?
I reckon they probably went through in total. I reckon they probably went through the teams 3 times. So that would be 11 times 3, provided no one got sent off. So around 33, so maybe like 32 or like 34, because you've got to have one who didn't, because you have to get the one. I'm going to say around the early 30s.
It's 48.
Wow. That's a lot of
It was in the Namibian Cup in 2005 when KK Palace played Civics, and it took 48 spots. And it's in the Guinness World Records for the longest penalty shootout. And on that mind-blowing fact, I'm finishing my fun facts for this week.
I can't track a penalty shootout when there's just 5 penalties, let alone 48. That's nuts. Right. Are we going to keep the podcast going just so we get the conclusion of the Germany-Costa Rica game, or should we call it a day?
No, because that means dragging it out for 10 more minutes.
Oh, golly. We will not put you through that.
We're not managing that.
No, we are not.
You'll have to just check out the scores.
I think we've done well today. I think we
have done well to produce a podcast of some length that
I'm not sure how much of it is TikTokable, but I will see.
No, probably not a great deal, but at least this week you'll be able to see my face if there is any TikTok clips.
Well, there we go. I will put
which is a bonus for
clip
everybody.
just for you. It might be like a week of like banter on TikTok as opposed to actual help for people.
That's all right. That's fine. Right, I'm gonna go watch the last 10 minutes of this game.
Lovely
to see you.
Likewise,
Good luck.
my friend.
Break a leg tonight.
Thank you very much. Doing Basil 40.
I know.
That'll be fun. And yeah, thanks. No, good job. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell all your friends about us. And you can now follow us on TikTok. And while Ed is watching the end of the Germany-Costa Rica game, he's going to set up our Instagram account.
Perfect. Lovely to see you. Have a good week.
Likewise, my friend. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Au revoir.
Thank you for making it to the end of another episode of Red or Yellow. You're clearly a very fit listener. May I gently remind you to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Tell all your friends. And don't forget to please share it with any refereeing groups that you may have. Good luck on the fields out there this week. And if you have any questions, please make sure you send them in to us on social media. Voice notes or written questions would be brilliant. And we will, of course, include them in the podcast. Have the most wonderful day. Ciao, ciao.